Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's Cabinet meeting of Rushcliffe Borough Council. Just like to remind everybody that the Cabinet meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. A recording will be available afterwards on the Council's YouTube channel. Also, under the Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulations 2014, other people may record, post on social media or blog from this meeting, and the use of such images and recordings are outside the control of the Council. There is one exempt item for the agenda today, so that will be with the public excluded from that. So moving to the agenda itself, apologies for absence. I think Councillor Verdi. Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Does anybody have any interest that need to be declared? I'll take that as silence, so no. Minutes of the previous meeting held on the 14th of October. Can I sign those as a true and correct record? Everybody in favour? Thank you. I believe there are no citizens' questions, so we'll move straight to opposition group leaders' questions. If I can invite Councillor Walker to come and put her question. Good evening.
Good evening. Can Cabinet confirm that the consultation will invite local trade unions prior to making the amendments to the local labour agreement as part of the ongoing work of the LDO?
Thank you. Councillor Upton to respond, please.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Walker. As a short preamble to my reply, I'd just like to say that this administration supports and actually encourages wherever it can the use of local labour and materials on construction sites within Rushcliffe. This council also negotiates the pay awards for its staff directly with the trade unions. Regarding materials, an example I'd bring to mind is that we regularly use a firm in Bunny for our playground equipment. That's sort of a scene setter, really. But response to your direct question, the proposed amendment relates to a planning condition attached to the Ratcliffe Local Development Order, or LDO. This condition requires, and I stress requires, local labour agreements, or LLAs, to be put in place which show how opportunities for people living in the locality, including employment, apprenticeships and training, will be provided throughout the construction phase of the site. And I stress the construction phases of this large site. The amendment simply seeks to clarify the timing of when the LLAs will be required during the redevelopment. As the LLAs will apply to private companies undertaking the construction works, their relevance to local unions may be somewhat limited. We have limits as to what our powers are as a borough council, but nonetheless, subject to cabinet approval, we will carry out consultation on the proposed amendments to the LDO in line with the statutory requirements. The proposed amendment to the LDO concerns only the timing and the number of LALs required, not their content. So they are more targeted to each development. And later on this evening, I will be presenting agenda item 9, and I refer there to each plot within the curtilage of the larger site. And plot on plot will be developed at different times with different contractors. And so I think it's pertinent that the local labour agreements are relevant to those individual developments rather than the whole. And these agreements will not be brought forward until specific development proposals have been approved. Any engagement with the trade unions on the details of these agreements will therefore be, I suggest, more appropriate at that later stage when development is actually being proposed on a plot by plot basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary?
Yeah, thank you for that response. That was helpful. As part of your preamble, you did mention using the local workforce. So I was wondering if there's an update on the reskilling of the power station workforce since the decommissioning over 1 year ago.
I haven't got that. In the recent meeting I had with senior staff at Uniper on the power station site, I know certain specialist staff, if you like, that work for the power station operation since decommission. Some had left that employment or been relocated elsewhere within Uniper's global reach. I haven't got the absolute numbers of where those employees are and what they're doing at the moment. We could provide you with that information very shortly, I'm sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that strictly speaking, that's a separate issue to the LDO, but I mean, obviously, it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? Okay, thank you very much indeed. So if we move on now to item 6, which is the Conservation Area Review Project, and so the first of many items presented by Councillor Upton. So I hope you are refreshed and ready to start the process. So over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, indeed. Quite a few reports this evening under my name. So here goes. The first one. This is an overview, really, of the work we've been doing on reviewing our conservation areas, of which we quite a few in the borough and have had for some time. So I'll give this detail first, but not in further reports on the same subject area. But the Planning, Listed Building and Conservation Areas Act of 1990 imposes a duty on local planning authorities to designate as conservation areas any areas of special architectural or historic interest, the character of which it is desirable to preserve or enhance. And once adopted, conservation area appraisals are a material consideration when considering planning applications within the conservation area. The designation of conservation areas and the adoption of conservation area appraisals should be continually reviewed, and our recent review process has discharged this council's duty to review its conservation areas from time to time, as required by the 1990 Act, and has ensured that all of Rushcliffe's appraisals are current and up to date. A review of the conservation areas across the borough was last done in the period 2008 to 2011, and in 2022 funding was identified to appoint an additional staff resource for a period of 3 years to review all our appraisals. 33 appraisals have been reviewed, including 31 reviews of existing conservation areas and the adoption of 2 new conservation areas. This has been a challenging task, but we have completed it, and I'd like to thank Andrew Langley for the work that he did during his 3-year contract with us. He has since left the employ of the Borough Council. So it's recommended that Cabinet consider the information contained within this report and acknowledge the successful completion of this review project. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Inglis, would you like to second, please?
Yeah, thank you. So whilst endorsing what Councillor Upton has already outlined, I'd also like to endorse that the 3-year project management and implementation by Andrew Langley has been very well done. I had the pleasure of working with him on some of the appraisals. I was impressed by his engagement, ambition and professionalism, and I wish him all the best in his current ventures. It's very important, especially with the unknown future changes on the horizon that our villagers may be facing, that conservation areas are reviewed and clarified on a regular basis and are current to safeguarding historical interests, areas of special architecture and characteristics that are desirable to be preserved or enhanced to protect against inappropriate development as a material planning consideration. I therefore second the recommendation in part 2 that the Cabinet considers the information contained within the report and acknowledges the successful completion of this review project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or comments? think what I can say is that I know that conservation areas are highly valued, I think, by the residents of Rushcliffe. So I think this is an excellent project. So if there are no questions or comments, all those in favour, please. Unanimous. Thank you. Item 7 is the draft revised character appraisal and conservation area for Colston Bassett. Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, as stated in my previous report on our conservation area review summary, and I'll be brief this time, the Planning Act 1990 imposes this duty on local planning authorities to designate conservation areas of any areas of special architectural, historic interest, etc., and to review them from time to time. Now, unless there is a particular issue, the adoption of a revised conservation area appraisal is usually a joint process done by myself as the portfolio holder for planning and housing, the local ward councillor and councillors, and the reviewing officer. And this has been the case for most of the reviews that we've just done. However, the local community in Colston Bassett has led on carrying out their appraisal, which has been subject to public consultation. There have, however, been some issues of community concern, principally around the boundary of the conservation area, the amount of land to be designated as positive open space, and whether properties on Spring Hill should be included in the conservation area. And this has actually resulted in this review being brought to Cabinet this evening for discussion and a decision. Detailed information on these issues is contained within the report and the appendices. Perhaps the key issue has been the amount of undeveloped land to be designated as positive open space. The draft document prepared by the community identifies practically all land within the conservation area which is not already developed as such land. Officers have raised this as a concern and advised against it, but the community representatives maintain that they understand the planning risk of this action, and nevertheless they want all this open space identified in this way, and will, I think I quote, defend any planning appeals that are made in respect of any part of this identified positive open space. And so it remains as such in the draft appraisal. It is this challenging situation which has brought this matter to Cabinet. In this draft conservation area review, if this draft conservation area review is adopted by Cabinet this evening, it will not automatically be completed until notices are published in the Nottingham Post and the London Gazette. So I therefore recommend that Cabinet A, adopt a revised boundary for the Colston Bassett Conservation Area as shown edged red on the plan at Appendix A, and B, adopt the Conservation Area Character Appraisal Management Plan and Townscape Appraisal at Appendix B and C as the documents which outlines and describe the special architectural and historic character of the conservation area which it will be desirable to preserve and enhance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seconder, Councillor Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So happy second report. I think it shows, the system works quite bluntly, where we've got a report there, the community have given their feedback. We've then obviously gone back to, as council, to the community again to make sure they understand risks, etc. But we can put through this document that's the majority of the community wants. Like I say, Colston Bassett is a lovely area, a unique part of Rushcliffe. So I think having this document in place to help give the residents that peace of mind and to have some control over the local area is exactly what we want to do, which is what we have been doing, neighbourhood plans and so forth throughout the community. So more than happy to second report and welcome it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Does somebody have any comments or questions? No. Okay, so all those in favour of the two recommendations on page 18, all those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Very much. Move to item 8, which is the similar sort of thing, draft character appraisal and proposed conservation area for Screveton. And surprise, surprise, I will ask Councillor
Well,
Upton yet
thank you,
again.
Chair. Thank you, Chair. Another conservation area review, as you say, but one for a new designation. If I may be permitted to pass on the background to the 1990 Planning Listed Building Conservation Act, I will, because I think by now we should all be familiar with it. Some local residents and the Screveton Parish Meeting asked for parts of Screveton to become a conservation area, and a community group came forward to lead on producing a draft appraisal. And this report seeks formal adoption of a conservation area for Screveton. Screveton has been investigated and assessed and is considered by officers to be a place which has special architectural and historic interest, the character and appearance of which would be desirable to preserve and enhance for future generations. A period of public consultation was undertaken from the 4th to the 26th of June this year, and comments both for and against were received, but it is considered that no significant changes are required to the draft documentation. If this draft conservation area is adopted by Cabinet, it will not be officially completed, as I said on the previous report, until notices are published in the Nottingham Post and the London Gazette. Therefore, it's recommended that Cabinet A designate a conservation area for the village of Screveton, as shown edged red on the plan at Appendix A under the Planning Listed Building and Conservation Areas Act 1990 for the reasons set out in the report, and B, adopt the conservation area character appraisal in Appendix B as a document which outlines and describes the special architectural and historic character of that conservation area, which it will be desirable to preserve or enhance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Upton. I'll second this particular recommendation. Screveton is one of many very attractive villages around Rushcliffe, and as you stated, and it's important that we do protect the historical character of villages, and Screveton is an excellent example of that. So I'm very happy to second the recommendations that you have just moved. Do we have any other comments or questions? No. So, oh, sorry, Councillor Byrne.
Thank you. No, I'm simply going to reiterate really what you said, but just to say I'm really pleased to see new areas coming forward. Everything we can do to protect the character and heritage of the borough is to be welcome. So I'm very pleased to see new conservation areas coming online.
Thank you very much. Any further? No. Then if I can ask all those in favour, please. Unanimous. Thank you. Now that brings us to a rather more involved item 9, which is the Ratcliffe-on-Soar Local Development Order. So if I could turn again to Councillor Upton, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Indeed, a change of subject material, as you say. Cabinet are aware of the history of the Ratcliffe-on-Soar power station site, its recent decommissioning, and the vision that the site owners and ourselves have for its future use. It was to try and enable its future use and streamline the planning process that we adopted a local development order, or LDO, back in July 2023. This specified the types of uses which would be permitted on the site. The LDO has to be reviewed in July 2026, but the local planning authority can legally review, modify or revoke an adopted LDO at any time in order to respond to issues that arise. We have had a request from the site's owner, Uniper, to consider making a limited number of amendments to the LDO, namely 1, to allow data centre uses to be located on the southern part of the site, south of the A453. Secondly, to allow environmental mitigation works to come forward early with council agreement. And thirdly, to allow local labour agreements to be agreed on a plot by plot basis. This report seeks Cabinet's approval to progress work to review these proposed amendments to the LDO, including to undertake statutory public consultation on the changes in draft. Cabinet's approval is also sought to agree that the Local Development Framework Group, LDF, considers and comments on the draft amendments ahead of going to public consultation. The report gives detailed information on the proposed amendments, and more information is set out in a paper prepared by Uniper's consultants, Arup, at Appendix 1. The LDO already identifies data centres as an appropriate use, but restricted to the northern part of the site. Gigafactory type manufacturing uses and green energy uses were identified as suitable for the southern part of the site. Since approval of the LDO, market conditions have changed significantly, as has the political situation, and there is now a major initiative to bring forward data centre developments quickly to help drive UK economic growth. Additionally, in September 2024, the government categorised data centres as critical national infrastructure, placing them in the same category as energy and water infrastructures. The use of the northern part of the site is severely restricted, I would suggest, for several years, possibly to around 2030, due to the approval of a large open cast gypsum quarry and the demolition of the redundant power station's infrastructures. The report gives information on the likely effects of allowing data centres on the southern area of the site, including highway matters. Regarding the proposed change to the biodiversity net gain and other environmental migration proposals, these are set out in Appendix 3. They are amendments to the detailed processes to allow suitable environmental mitigation schemes falling within option 3 to be delivered ahead of options 1 and 2. The final requested amendment to the LDO concerns local labour agreements. The LDO requires applicants to submit a local labour agreement to demonstrate that the development offers employment opportunities for local people during the construction phase. We strongly support the use of local labour wherever reasonably practicable. However, the wording is considered ambiguous at present and can be interpreted as requiring a single local labour agreement to be submitted and approved prior to the commencement of the first development and thereafter to be adhered to by all the various plot developers. Development is likely to come forward in a number of phases or on a plot by plot basis with different contractors. So to remove any ambiguity, it is proposed that the wording is adjusted to make clear that individual local labour agreements are to be submitted for each individual plot prior to commencement of development. See section 3 of Appendix 3. It's a long report. I've given almost an executive overview, you could argue, but it is recommended that Cabinet, and I'm going to have to just break and find the recommendations in the report, quite a lot. Do you want me to read them, Chairman, or just refer Cabinet? Well, they are listed in, printed in section 2, quite a lot of recommendations, A, B, C and D. Thank you, Chair. Matt.
Thank you very much indeed. And just to confirm for anybody watching, etc., the recommendation is printed on page 116. It's paragraph 9, and as Councillor Upton said, it's those 4 A, B, C, D recommendations as printed on page 116. Seconder, Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, this is an extremely important site for us, not just within Rushcliffe, but for the East Midlands and nationally. And as a public sector organisation, the best that we can do is to help create a conducive environment for investment and for private sector and commercial development. We cannot make the private sector invest in a site or in something or somewhere where it doesn't want to or doesn't see it as a viable or commercially worthwhile exercise. So when market forces change, as they do, we as the public sector must be able to be responsive to those changes and to continue to create an environment in which we can bring forward private sector investment and commercial development. Failing to do that is one of the reasons that we've failed to bring forward really important sites like this. The sclerotic nature of some of the processes that the public sector aims to bring on sites like this means that investment can be put off for many years and decades. And this is a huge opportunity site, albeit it's got the challenges, as Councillor Upton has said, of an open cast gypsum mine and the demolition of a major power station on the site, all of which will come to pass, and this will be a fantastic economic opportunity for the borough, for the county and more widely. But it is important that when the situation changes, when commercial interests change, that we are able to act swiftly to change the environment to enable that development to come forward. And I think this is what the recommendations tonight will enable us to do. We're working closely with Uniper and with the Freeport. We agree that we need to do as much as we possibly can to make this an attractive site that will really benefit both our economy and jobs and skills and our young people going forward. So I'm very happy to support the recommendations, and I'd like to see us get this done and start getting some development onto that really crucial site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it's worth re-emphasising that tonight, we are putting this out to consultation. There's going to be a chance for the public to have their views. Going to go through obviously our local development framework group, which is made up for a large number of councillors. So it does give everyone the opportunity to really review this and to look at the risk to reward, because I think as we've talked about the power station site and the Rushcliffe site for many years, there's a chance to really bring some really good, highly skilled jobs to the area, the real economic boost that the Rushcliffe needs following the closure of the power station site, and to give jobs to the huge amount of local housing going in the area. And there is risk, of course, without that. If we don't have these sorts of businesses there, and that Uniper or other developers aren't going to take that forwards, that the land could be faced with housing or other potential uses that local people don't want. So I think it really gives the opportunity for people to have their say, to give us that feedback. As we've already seen in previous items, we do take that feedback on board and obviously make the recommendations from there. So really welcome the fact that this will go in the public domain to review, to give feedback from there, but completely agree with the sentiments already raised that we need to make sure that we're getting this site forwards as soon as possible to bring those jobs to the area and to make sure the site's back in use. Thank you.
Very much. Any other comments or questions? If I could actually add to the comments that have already been made. Yes, we absolutely need to drive UK economic growth, and this would be an important factor. I fully appreciate that there are pluses and minuses in relation to data centres, but this would signify a major investment in the area. In terms of the various use of the site, then a data centre employs less people than some of the other uses, and therefore hopefully that would be a benefit to less traffic going through the villages. Also, if this site was developed, then let's hope that that would help kickstart then the development on the north side of the 453 once the gypsum has been extracted, because we want to really keep driving the site in total to make sure that it doesn't just become a long-term derelict site. We need to be acting as a council to ensure and encourage and promote the economic growth of that site in total. And I really hope that this sort of proposal would be just such a proposal. There's no guarantee that a data centre would actually appear on the site, but this is allowing that possibility. As I say, there are pluses and minuses, but I think that it's important that, as has been stated, I think by Councillor Upton, it is potentially a critical national infrastructure project, and this is something that we must support and promote. It has to still go out to consultation, so hopefully concerns can be addressed at that consultation stage, but I fully support this at this stage. Any other comments or questions? In which case it has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please. That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. We move now to item 10, where I move that under Regulation 4 of the Local Authorities Regulations 2012, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. And the grounds would be that it's liable that there is to be commercial or sensitive commercial or financial information disclosed. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, all those in favour, please. That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Could we have